Goodwill of Southern Indiana began as two separate organizations, each formed around two pivotal events in our nation's history: the Great Depression and the polio epidemic. During the Great Depression, it was difficult to find employment, especially so if you were a person with a disability. The first store was opened in November of 1930 and was located inside the old YMCA building on the corner of Main and Pearl in New Albany. 13 people were employed and given an opportunity to achieve independence. The polio epidemic hit southern Indiana in the late 1940s. At the time, the only place medically fragile children could receive services was Riley Hospital in Indianapolis. In 1950, three great organizations, as well as some local physicians and business people, collaborated to open up the Southeastern Indiana Rehabilitation Center. The center was a comprehensive medical facility for children stricken with polio. By the 1970s, Goodwill increased to 4 stores located in New Albany, Jeffersonville, Corydon, and Salem. Employment services for people with disabilities increased to include vocational evaluation, job placement, worksite training, and an industrial workshop. The Rehabilitation Center added multiple new services to children, including physical, speech, and occupational therapies, audiology evaluations, psychological services, and a preschool. In 1961, the center moved to its current location on Applegate Lane in Clarksville. In 1978, Goodwill and the Rehabilitation Center began conversations around the similar missions that they both served. Both served people with disabilities, Goodwill adults, and the Rehab Center, children. In 1980, Goodwill and the Rehabilitation Center merged into Bridgepoint Services and Goodwill Industries of Southern Indiana. In 2011, the organization embraced its rich history by changing the name to Goodwill of Southern Indiana. The new name reflected the importance of the Goodwill stores in funding vital services for adults and children with disabilities and barriers to employment and education. Today, Goodwill of Southern Indiana has 11 stores in 9 counties. Revenue from the stores is 90% of the organization's budget and funds services that include job connection centers, children's learning centers, vouchers, vocational services, Book of My Own programs, pediatric therapy, and a vigorous recycling program.
Goodwill didn't see me as a problem. They actually saw me as an asset, helping me trying to get a job. They treat you like family. You work together, not by yourself. Finding jobs, application, you work together, like doing interviews with people, with her, with the whole people who work at Goodwill.
I was born with cerebral palsy, and when I was starting school, first grade, I had to go to the doctor to get the shots, and my doctor was Dr. Reagan, and he referred me to, it was called the Rehabilitation Center then, for physical therapy and occupational therapy services. I took driver's training through the rehab center, and back then they took us to the sports dome to practice. So the first time I got behind the wheel, I was at the sports dome. Actually, it was in the parking lot. But some people say people have a lead foot going when they drive so fast. Well, I kind of have a heavy hand because I use hand controls. And it's because I learned to drive at the sports dome. Through the years, I received those services from 1964 all the way to early 2000s. I wanted to volunteer because of seeing how my life was changed and helped through the years of going there for the services and then working there, seeing how people's lives were helped. I want to be a part of that. I wanted to continue to be a part of that even after I had to retire.
Joshua was diagnosed around age 18 months with cerebral palsy. He was diagnosed at the Cerebral Palsy Center in Louisville, and they had told me that he would need therapy services. And so we were referred to what was then the Southern Indiana Rehabilitation Center, and that's where he got speech, occupational, and physical therapy. His speech, they worked on it quite a bit, and also during his preschool, they would give him things to work on and give me things to work on as well at home. And then occupational, he has his left hand is like a helper hand, and they did a lot of self-help things with occupational therapy to help him feed himself, dress himself, that sort of thing. And then physical therapy, it was a great, huge help for us because the doctors didn't know if he would ever walk. And through the physical therapy and working with him, and they gave us stuff to do at home, he was able to walk at age 3. It was really our second home because we live in Corridon. I drove him all the way 3 days a week. I brought him up here, and I would stay the 4 hours when he was in preschool, just hanging out till time to pick him up and take him back home. So, I mean, really, it was almost our second home for a while.
Goodwill has grown from the first store that opened in November 1930, employing 13 people, to now serving 5,000 individuals annually. Goodwill continues meeting the needs of the community just as it did during the Great Depression and the polio epidemic.